There was once a small diner on the outskirts of a quiet American town. The kind of place where the neon sign flickered at night and the booth still bore the weight of conversations long forgotten. And inside that fading diner worked a weary chef named Daniel, whose hands once created dishes that travelers would praise, but whose heart had grown tired after years of bills piling up, customers disappearing, and hope thinning like the steam from an empty pot. And one cold evening when the wind pressed against the windows like a reminder of everything he had failed to hold together, Daniel stood behind the counter staring at the silent room and whispered a question he had not spoken in years, asking God if there was anything left worth trying before he locked the doors for good. And in that heavy silence, an idea came to him, not through a voice or vision, but through the softest stirring in his chest, telling him to offer something he had never placed on the menu, something that cost nothing yet meant everything. And with trembling hands he took out a simple ceramic bowl, placed it at the center of the counter, and wrote one word on a small wooden sign: Grace. And beneath it he added, free for anyone. And though his mind argued that this was foolish, his heart felt strangely steady, as if heaven itself had nudged him forward. And the next morning when he opened the diner, he found the bowl still empty, but the sign glowing faintly in the sunrise, pouring through the window. And for the first hour no one came until a homeless man stepped hesitantly inside, clutching his worn jacket as though it held the pieces of his life. And Daniel greeted him not with pity but with warmth, inviting him to sit and offering him fresh soup, though the man reached instead for the bowl labeled Grace and asked if he might leave a story instead of taking something. And Daniel nodded, unsure of what that meant, until the man placed a folded scrap of paper into the bowl and said that he once worked in construction before addiction destroyed everything, but that last night he prayed for a sign that he was not beyond redemption, and waking up this morning he felt led to walk into the diner he had never noticed before. And when he finished speaking, his voice cracked with gratitude that someone had made space for him to be seen. And Daniel realized his eyes were burning with tears, because he had expected people to take from the bowl, but had not imagined they would give something back. And word began to spread through the town about the diner with the Grace Bowl, so that the next day a young single mother came in with 2 children tugging her sleeves, and though she had only enough money for one meal, Daniel quietly divided the portion into 3 and placed it before them, watching the children smile with relief while the mother slipped a note into the bowl saying that she had felt invisible for so long, but today she felt remembered. And day after day more strangers arrived, each carrying burdens heavier than their worn shoes suggested. A lonely veteran who could not sleep without nightmares, leaving his dog tag in the bowl, asking for prayer. A teenage boy trembling as he admitted he had thought of giving up, but the sight of the sign outside gave him courage to take one more step. An elderly widow who had not spoken since her husband passed, placing a tiny photograph into the bowl, whispering that this was the first place she had walked into without feeling alone. And Daniel found himself reading these notes every night long after closing time, letting the stories soak into his tired heart until the tears running down his face felt like the first cleansing rain after years of drought. And gradually he noticed the diner changing in ways he could not explain. The air felt warmer even when the heater struggled. The light through the windows seemed gentler even on cloudy days, and laughter began returning to the tables like birds returning after a long winter. And Daniel, who once cooked only out of obligation, now stirred each pot with a sense of purpose, believing that every meal might be the answer to a quiet prayer whispered somewhere beyond the walls. And one afternoon, a man in a suit entered the diner looking uncomfortable, as though he did not belong in such a humble place. But when he approached the counter, he removed his tie with shaking hands and confessed that he was a successful businessman losing his marriage because he had forgotten how to be kind. And after sitting in silence, he placed his wedding ring into the bowl, saying he needed God to restore what he had broken. And Daniel prayed with him despite never having prayed aloud in front of anyone before. Yet the words flowed like they had been waiting years to be spoken. And crowds began to grow, not because the food suddenly improved, though Daniel did cook with newfound joy, but because the diner had become a sanctuary for those carrying invisible wounds. A place where no one entered as a stranger and no one left unchanged. And local news eventually heard rumors about the mysterious Grace Bowl, so a reporter visited, expecting a quirky human interest story, but instead found herself crying as she read the handwritten notes and heard Daniel share how this simple bowl had resurrected not only the soul of the diner, but his own faith. And when the story aired, families from across the town drove miles to experience the quiet holiness of that small room where burdens were exchanged for hope, and hearts were softened by the presence of compassion served before any meal arrived. And donations might have come, but Daniel always refused to commercialize the bowl, insisting that grace must remain free or it ceases to be grace. And one snowy evening near closing time, Daniel noticed an elderly man standing outside staring through the frosted window, as if deciding whether he dared to step inside. And when Daniel opened the door and welcomed him, the man revealed that he was once the chef who trained Daniel decades earlier and had come to apologize for harsh words spoken in anger long ago, words that had wounded Daniel and pushed him toward quitting his dream. And Daniel felt something inside him break open as he placed a gentle hand on the man's shoulder and said that grace had already made room for forgiveness long before this moment. And together they placed a note in the bowl reading reconciliation. And the diner seemed to glow with a peace Daniel had never felt before. And as the months passed, the diner did not just survive but flourished, becoming a beacon for those who needed not only food, but a reminder that God moves quietly in simple places, through simple gestures and through people who dare to offer grace without conditions. And Daniel, who once felt alone, now saw each day as an answer to his first desperate prayer on that cold night, when he asked if anything was left worth trying. Because now he understood that God had not only saved the diner, but had used it to gather stories of redemption into a single bowl that overflowed with the beauty of broken lives healed by kindness. And as Daniel locked up one evening, he looked at the grace bowl glowing softly under the warm kitchen light and whispered that he would keep serving grace for as long as he had breath, because people were hungry for more than food, they were hungry for hope. And his voice thick with emotion, he prayed that anyone who walked through the doors would taste the goodness of God before tasting anything he cooked. And this is the story of a chef who served grace before the meal and discovered that when grace is offered freely, lives change quietly yet powerfully, until an entire community is revived by the simple truth that love, given without cost, is the purest reflection of heaven. And if this story touched your heart, please remember that small acts of kindness can become miracles in places you least expect, and you too can be a bearer of grace in your world. And thank you for listening to this story. May you carry its light into your own life. And may you remember that God often uses the humblest hands to reveal His glory. And now, dear friend, if this story moved you, please leave a comment, share your own testimony, and help this message reach someone who needs hope today. And make sure you subscribe to Faith Light Stories so you never miss another story of God's gentle faithfulness shining through ordinary lives. Welcome, dear friend. This is Faith Light Stories, where every story reminds us that God never leaves us. Please like, share, and subscribe.